WCNC Charlotte. This is Flashpoint, where power and politics collide and the tough questions get asked and answered.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. Pride Month is wrapping up, and despite lots of progress in recent years, the fight for gay rights and trans rights continues in our state capitol, in our nation's capital, and in our classrooms. There's an ongoing tug of war between those wanting to embrace and celebrate the LGBTQ community and those who do not. Today's fight more than 50 years in the making. Back in June 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn in a popular gay bar in New York's Greenwich Village. At the time, homosexuality was considered criminal. It was common for police to raid bars like Stonewall. But this raid led to riots over the next 6 days. Well, every June after that, people took to the streets to march for equality. And by the way, the first Pride here in Charlotte happened 40 years ago. Joining us today, Matt Comer, the communications director for Charlotte Pride. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
All right, so tell me, on this Pride Month, are you more or are you less optimistic about gay rights than you were, say, 1 or 2 years ago?
You know, I think our community certainly is experiencing challenges right now, especially the transgender community, and that's something that we really need to be paying attention to. But at the same time, I really am optimistic because we have spent so many of the past past decade, building a really strong, powerful community. We are resilient, we are united, so I think we'll be able to overcome any challenge thrown our way.
One of the things that's made news recently is House Bill 755, known as the Parents' Bill of Rights, up in Raleigh, stalled right now in the House there. Doesn't appear that there's the votes there to overcome what would be a governor's veto of it. But it would basically restrict any LGBTQ instruction in elementary schools. Some have compared it to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. What is your assessment of this? Is this basically just like the Florida bill, same intent, same sort of goal here, or is there a difference that you can tell?
I think it's exactly the same intent. It would silence or at least chill speech from students, teachers, parents. But there's actually a worse part of the bill. The bill would also require school personnel to forcibly out LGBTQ students, again, especially trans students who might be using a different name or different pronouns. But I mean, there's also a risk, for example, that if a closeted student wants to go to an LGBTQ student organization at a middle school or a high school, they could be forcibly outed to their parents. So it's pretty extreme.
And people, I think, sometimes forget that not all kids out there have supportive home lives, and we also know that LGBTQ teens disproportionately consider suicide for partially that reason, which is to the point you're making. Devil's advocate, though, if you're talking about the younger kids, you know, kindergarten through third grade, you know, I don't remember anything coming up in my youth at that age as far as instruction when it comes to gay or trans issues. Is this much ado about nothing?
No, I don't think so, because I think that every person has a sexual orientation and a gender identity. And these kind of conversations around families are going to be silenced or chilled. So is a kindergartner with two moms or a kindergartner with two dads going to be able to discuss their family vacation when they come back from summer break? And I certainly don't think that the state is going to be telling schools that they can't read books that feature a mom and dad as the head of the family. You know, that represents a sexuality, a gender, two people's gender expression. So I think it will have a real effect, especially on children who have LGBTQ parents and of course, LGBTQ teachers themselves.
Yeah, it can fall both ways there when you start talking about sexuality and gender, and that can also mean heterosexuality.
Yeah.
Last year, the city of Charlotte finally passed its non-discrimination ordinance. It was several years in the making after trying to do it 5 or 6 years ago. Why is it important that a city like Charlotte has that?
You know, Charlotte is the largest city in the Carolinas. We're also home to the largest population of LGBTQ people who are employed across a wide variety of industries. We want to keep our city strong. We want to keep our city vibrant. Beyond just the the bare necessity of ensuring people have the right to go to work and not be fired or harassed because of who they are. If we're living in a city where a significant percentage of the city could be fired at any moment, that's not going to make our city stronger or healthier.
This is Flashpoint, so we do talk politics, but I think when it comes to some of these issues, people should be skeptical about politicians and their motives in these things. And what some people call culture wars, other people just say, no, those are just my rights. That said, I do think there are good people on either side of some of these issues, and some people who might not understand some of the other issues. My point in all of this is that I feel like politics really murkies the water and makes things a lot worse for a lot of people, which I think Brene Brown is the one who said it's hard to hate people up close. And I think, how do you overcome that? Because I feel like there's some good people who might not know a gay person, who might not know a trans person, who finds it a lot easier to sort of malign them by not knowing them, when if they just knew a person, that would go a long way in solving a lot of these things. And yes, politicians will still try to capitalize on it, but just human to human contact would really help in this situation. But what do you do about that? How do you make that happen?
Well, I mean, Ben, I think you're exactly right. Homophobia, transphobia for centuries has always been based on a fear of the unknown. And it's very easy for politicians to play this game, this politics of fear. Because your average, run-of-the-mill citizen or resident responds powerfully to things they don't know about, or just fear in general. We do know, and we've seen this in the LGBTQ rights movement over many decades, that the more and more people who meet and know an LGBTQ family member, friend, coworker, that begins to soften hearts and minds, because people just want to love and be kind to their family, friends, neighbors. And so once people are confronted with the reality that someone close to them is also LGBTQ, it takes it from a talking point on Twitter to something that is immediately affecting their close relationships. So I think that's why things like pride events are important, because it gives an opportunity for the community to be out in public. It gives an opportunity for LGBTQ people en masse to visit local businesses, to meet other people. I also think that's why it's important that we should not forget that this debate is often boiled down to Christianity versus LGBTQ people. There are LGBTQ people like me who are people of faith, who are also Christian. This is a much more nuanced conversation, and really LGBTQ people are everywhere. So the more that people meet us, I think the more that our rights will be sustained.
Yeah, and some well-meaning straight folks might sometimes get confused, but this is Pride Month, but Charlotte Pride is not in Pride Month. Charlotte Pride is actually in August. Preview that for us, look ahead to that, and explain that to us, and then we got to go.
Sure. So August 20th and 21st, we're back. Planning is already at a fever pitch. We're about 2 months out. We are excited, planning for a significant increase in the number of folks who are coming. Our last in-person event in 2019 had 200,000. We think there's a lot of pent-up demand for folks to get out and about and have fun. But to your other question, why we're in August, it's a really simple, boring answer, actually. Way back in the day, once upon a time, the city had a lot of major street festivals in May and June already. And we wanted to work well with the city. We wanted to make sure that we were able to have our event that city staff was able to keep up. And August was that date. Plus, it allows local folks to go to some of the smaller Pride events that happen in June, like in Rock Hill or Salisbury.
The very simple, very mundane reason why this is Pride Month, but Charlotte Pride is in August. Matt Comer, listen, always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, happy Pride. More Flashpoint after this.